I felt like recording a podcast today. I don't exactly know why, but yesterday I went in the float tank, the sensory deprivation float tank, whatever you want to call it. I feel like if you're listening to this, you probably know what that is because I've told all my friends multiple times what they are. But if you don't know, feel free to just like look them up. There'll be probably a clip of Joe Rogan talking about them, but I'll spare you the details in interest of time. But anyways, yesterday I did it for the first time for 90 minutes. And previously I had just done it for 60, and the difference between 60 and 90 is amazing. Like, obviously it's only 30 minutes, but it just seems so much longer because the longer you go, obviously the deeper into that mind state you get. And the first thing I thought when I got in, because I wasn't originally planning on doing 60 minutes. Also, actually, I'm going to address really quick what's going on right here. Um, I'm gonna do a video portion of this podcast because I saw this guy Craig Adams, who is like a YouTuber type guy, and he does this solo podcast where he just basically sits down in a chair and talks to himself for like a pretty decent amount of time, and he just has like a list of different things that he's gonna talk about. And I actually have a little list right here under my camera. I'll take a quick little video of it so you can see it. Yeah, so I'm basically just copying what he's doing and doing it myself. I have no idea how well or how badly it'll go, but I'm also going to release this as just an audio thing on like SoundCloud or something because I feel like it would be pretty boring to just like watch this video for 30 minutes. I don't even know if I'll do that, let alone some other person trying to watch this. So back to what I was talking about with the float. I was originally scheduled for a 60-minute or hour-long float, and I was talking to the lady. I was like, yeah, I actually got an email from you guys this weekend because it was my birthday and I got a free 30 minutes of automated. And I was like, yeah, like what's automated? And she's like, oh, it's just like you can do this for 30 minutes for free or this or the float tank for 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, well, that's what I'm going to do right now. Could I just add it on to this one? And she's like, yeah, totally. So I luckily had like a big enough space in between my classes. And if you're wondering why I'm talking really fast right now, it's this coffee. Excuse me. But anyway, so I got in there, and then I was like, closed the tank, and it's obviously pitch black, and I was like, oh my gosh, this 90 minutes is a very long time. Like I got really nervous, and just the other day I was actually I wrote about it in my newsletter how it's so hard for me to sit down and watch a movie. And then I was like, oh my gosh, a movie is usually 90 minutes long. I'm in this float tank for 90 minutes and there's nothing to watch. So like this is obviously going to be an issue for my attention. It's going to be hard. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird because the float tank either goes really well or it goes kind of bad, and it just sort of depends on where you are at the moment. Um, the last time I was in there, or 2 times ago, excuse me, I went in there and it did not go well at all. And I actually, when I was in there, I thought of this metaphor. And the float tank is like going to see a therapist. I guess I haven't seen a therapist, so what I imagine going to see a therapist is like. But the therapist knows everything that you're thinking and knows what you don't want to talk about and what you don't want to think about and the things you want to ignore. It's because like you're basically sitting down with yourself and addressing all the things that you've been trying to push aside because there's nothing else. There's no sensory input, so all you have is your thoughts, which once you get a hold on of it, it's really cool. But if you're in a bad place like mentally and you're just like overwhelmed or anxious about some certain thing, like you're gonna be forced to sit there for like 60 minutes and just like ruminate over it. So anyways, I'm in there for 90 minutes and it starts going well. Like I'd say probably 20 minutes in, you kind of have an idea of how it's going to go. And it was really weird. I felt like I was getting rained on with ideas and just all these like really pleasant and cool thoughts. Um, and then I came up with this weird phrase of like the movie of my mind. And it's kind of inspired by this right here. You can see it. There's a Kanye West quote. I'm not going to turn around and read it, but it's basically like the tweet is, or the quote, whatever you want to call it, is talking about how like your imagination is cooler than any movie you can watch. And the context of the tweet is Kanye saying not to use your phone in the morning, but just to pay attention to your imagination because it's like really cool, I guess. And that's what I felt when I was in the tank. And I was just like watching my life over, and I was like, whoa, this is really weird. And going like, oh, this was a cool moment in my life. This was not a cool moment. Things I did well, things I could have done better. And so, yeah, I came up with the phrase of the movie of my mind. And I just kind of let that run, no pun intended. And it was really weird because there were some moments where it's like, okay, this is a little heavy and intense. But then there was other ones where it's like, wow, this is so cool. Like I could be, one of the things I was thinking about is with these YouTube videos that I try to make, I guess, is there's so many avenues that I want to explore with YouTube. And in particular, this one thing that I was thinking about was almost making a documentary of sorts, but just talking about the differences in how people view alcohol and marijuana. If you don't know, marijuana in Michigan is now recreationally legal, which is really weird to think about. And obviously so is alcohol. But in people's minds, there's still this weird disconnect. And I kind of wanted to explore that, maybe talking to some friends, myself talking to parents, doctors, I don't know. And I just thought like, I could really be doing so much more with YouTube. And that actually, I'm skipping ahead. I was going to talk about this later, but I took this class last semester called Experiments in Digital Video. And it was weird. Like if you think, oh, this is another thing. I also am trying to boycott the word weird because it's like, just because it's weird for you doesn't mean it's like, it just means you're uncomfortable with it. So you should probably like figure that out on your own terms. Anyways, but I'm gonna say the word weird here because it was. So for example, like we watched a video of a pregnancy or of a birth happening. We watched a video. This is the weirdest one. This one was called Blowjob, and it's just an extremely close up of this guy's face, and he's making like all these sensual noises and like facial expressions, and it's like 10 minutes long. So like the idea behind that video was like you assume things are happening outside of the frame because of what's happening within the frame. So it makes sense and it's interesting. But when you're sitting there with like 13 other people that you don't really know in a classroom, I was trying so hard not to just burst out laughing. Like, what is my life that I'm in a college classroom watching a video called Blowjob and it's this guy making all these weird faces? Where was I going with that? Yeah, exactly. And I actually want to make a video about this whole thing, not about the blowjob thing, but just how, like in my head, especially the year that I made all my YouTube videos, I really got stuck to this one format of the hold the camera out like this, like, what is up guys? Like just sort of vloggy type deal. And that, like, don't get me wrong, that's cool. And I think documentaries and videos that involve like the maker and like keep them on camera, I think that's cool, but I think it could be done better, or at least I want to do it differently, would probably be the best way to say it. And like I just feel right now that YouTube, for me at least, is such a blank canvas, and as long as something is a video in the sense that it's moving pictures, I can upload it to YouTube and it could potentially be cool. And there's a lot of different sorts of videos I want to try and make. One second, I'm going to take a sip of coffee because my voice is like breaking. Also, I've been talking for 9 minutes and 30 seconds and have not stopped once. Excuse me. So yeah, what I'm saying is I want to explore making different types of videos on my YouTube channel. And this is me saying that I'm going to upload that video at some point. Yeah? Cool. Anyways, back to the float. So just kept floating, kept thinking about stuff. And then this is really weird. I had this like nostalgic moment about the song It's My Life by Bon Jovi. And like it got stuck in my head for such a long time. And I was just like, yeah. Oh, whoops, I just drilled the microphone. And I just was like, that was playing in the background of my head. And I was just going through my life like, wow, I could do this. I could have this conversation that needs to be had. I could do all these things that in the back of my head I knew I wanted to do, but I was just like too afraid or too scared to actually do. And yeah, I guess it's just like the underlying thing is how afraid to do how I mean, I guess I'm speaking for myself here, but it's really hard to be like 100% open and vulnerable and honest about what you want to do with your life, what your dreams, what your goals are. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but I don't think I am, but that's something that I feel a lot. And the float tank was just like it was this weird moment or a weird hour and a half of thinking of my life as a movie of sorts and like I don't know. I feel like I'm saying like a bunch at this point, and I'm having trouble verbalizing it exactly how it happened because it's a weird thing where I was having so many thoughts where I was like, oh my gosh, I want to write this down. I want to remember this for when I get out so I can tell other people about it. But then it's like, I guess if the idea or the thought is good enough or important enough, it'll stick. With that being said, first thing I got out of the float tank and like immediately wrote like 2 pages about everything. So yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that. But anyways, what else am I trying to talk about with this? Oh, I was supposed to talk about this earlier in the video, but we're already 12 minutes in, or podcast, whatever you want to call this. Just this me throwing up out of my mouth with a bunch of words, is that I thought this would be a cool video to make because I just turned 22 on Saturday, and I feel like right now is a very interesting crossroads in my life because like obviously 21 is like the birthday where you like drink a bunch and it's like yay, I can do alcohol. But I mean obviously I did that for my 22nd birthday as well. But the undertone of my 22nd birthday was like, dang dude, like you're kind of an adult now. And even though I don't feel like an adult. But then also I'm a senior in college and I'm graduating in like 80 something days. So I thought this would be a cool timestamp on my life of like, hey, this is my life right now, or this is what your life is, Andrew. And then I'll be able to look back at it when I'm like 60 and be like, what the heck? Like this is weird. I don't know. And it's weird even talking about it. So maybe if you want to, I mean, I'm sure this could take many different forms. I could do this like all in writing, but I just think it's really interesting to like document where you are and what you're thinking at this current state of your life, because you can kind of go back and draw parallels like from later on. But also a big part of the reason why I do stuff like this is when I say something, especially in a public forum, I feel like a weird obligation to kind of follow through. Like if I say to myself, I'm going to make this certain video, like, yeah, that's fine and dandy. But if I tell like a few other people, then it's like, darn it, I don't really want to do this right now, but I did tell those people. So like, I guess I kind of have to do this. So it's kind of, people say speaking it into existence. I'm not the biggest fan of that phrase, but I guess that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's an interesting crossroads. It's a fork in the road because like a year after college, I feel like a lot of people just, I mean, people are always changing. That's such a cliche, but I feel like after college is where people really separate themselves in terms of like what the trajectory of the rest of their life is going to be like. And yeah, I just hope mine doesn't go fucking horribly, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't want to end up homeless and sleeping on a cardboard box. Yeah, I don't. Anyways, what do I have? The third thing I have written on my list is ruts. And actually my friend Carlos, I put a little thing on my Instagram story saying like, do you guys have any ideas for me to talk about during a podcast? And he said a few other things. He said like motivation, something else. And then he said creative ruts. And I was like, oh, ruts, that's a good thing to talk about because like I feel in a weird way that this float that I did, it like broke me out of a weird rut that I didn't even know I was in. And I think that's the most dangerous rut to be in, is one that you don't know that you're in, because it's like you think like, oh, this is my life. But then in the float tank, I was sitting there, I'm like yes, these certain things have happened, or this is how your life is going now, but like it doesn't have to be that way. And I guess through going in the float tank so much recently, and then also through meditation, it's just amazing what your mind can do and the tricks that it plays on you, or like just the tricks that you play on yourself of like, I like thinking of yourself as like, I am this person, I do these sorts of things, I feel these sorts of way when these things happen, like I always give up early, or I'm not going to be happy, or I am going to be happy, or I'm not creative. All these sort of like limiting statements that we tell ourselves, but then you realize it's like who you are in quotes is, it's really not like, I'm looking out of the corner of my eye at this book by David Goggins called Can't Hurt Me. And the cover photo is this amazing picture of him in all white in his like Navy SEAL garb, or like whatever, like I almost said Navy SEAL jersey. Uniform, excuse me, is the correct term there. And then in the background, like overshadowing him is a picture of him when he weighed 300 something pounds. And it's just weird because like it's kind of going back to the whole like nature versus nurture thing. And it's so easy to tell yourself that like, I was born this way, so I'm gonna just continue to be like this for forever, or like, this is what people in my family have done before, so I'll probably do the same thing. And it's like, if you want to change, you can, and if you want to make that a priority for you, you will, but you have to want it. And I don't know how I got to on this tangent from talking. Oh yeah, because meditation. There's this app that I wrote about in my newsletter. I feel like I'm just repeating all the things I talked about in my newsletter, but today I just completed day 40 of Sam Harris's Waking Up app, and it's just been, I can't even explain how impactful it's been for me. Some of the things he says, it's just like, dude, like this is kind of tripping me out. Like he talks about like, try and find where you are, like where your face is. Like it's obviously right here, but like where is the you of you? And I'm totally just destroying everything he says. He obviously says it in a much more eloquent, like good way. So this is me saying you should go listen to him. I feel like that's what I do a lot, which I'm totally fine with playing this role. It's like, hey, I found this cool thing, or it's something cool that this person did. I'm going to try and explain to you what it is. It's totally like, I'm totally just destroying it, but here's the link to them doing that. Go do it. I like doing that. That's kind of what I'm doing with my newsletter. And yeah, subscribe to my email newsletter if you haven't already. I'm also going to try and do a little bit of a show notes thing. Like kind of linking where these things are that I talk about. So that if you're watching this YouTube video, it'll be in the description of the YouTube video. If you're watching, or if you're listening to this on like SoundCloud, I don't know where I'm going to put it, but I mean, you could always just like look somewhere where I am and you might be able to find it, or you could always just text me and then you can also find it that way. And this is weird because I just said the text thing and I was like, well, what if someone watches this or listens to this that I don't know well, and then they get my number? And it reminded me to when I was in New York, and at this bookstore, art place, whatever you want to call it, I don't really know what it was. There was this person that took their little. I'm looking around because I'm trying to find mine. Oh, here. Oops. They took their little notebook like this. And they just scanned every single page, and then that's what they were selling. And it was like, it's just like, oh my gosh, that is really like vulnerable, and really, I could never do that, because it's like exposing your deepest, darkest secrets and like thoughts to all these people. And I commend that person for their vulnerability. But what was and anyways, when I was just saying you could text me, I had this weird moment. It was like, I could be vulnerable and say like, if you want to talk to me, or if you have a question, or if you whatever, you could text me. But then I was like, what if I give out to like someone gets my number? Anyways, so I'm gonna give you all my phone number. I don't really assume anyone's gonna text me, but you never know. All right, so this is weird. 248-840-4216. 16 like sweet 16. Whenever I say that to people, they always think it's 60, and it's like, nope, 16. Yeah. Now I'm looking at my list of things I want to talk about. The next one is comfort zone. I feel like I was just testing my comfort zone right there, giving my phone number to, I don't know, whatever. Comfort zone. This is also something that Carlos told me to talk about. So thank you, Carlos, for responding to my Instagram story, and fuck you to everyone else that did. Not actually, but thank you, Carlos. Comfort zone. What was the original question that he had? I don't know. Yeah, as I get older, I'm slowly drawing like, okay, I could probably boil my life down to like 15 different themes, and that is what I have been struggling with, and I probably will struggle with for forever. Like vulnerability is obviously a through line. Comfort zone is obviously something that I always have been really interested in, and trying to figure out why people are uncomfortable with certain things and why they're not. But what was Carlos? This is what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so I guess you know what, I'll talk about when I met up with you, Carlos. And I think it's interesting because there's this weird quote it's not weird, but there's this quote that's like, everything you want is right outside of your comfort zone. And it's interesting because things that are important to you are usually what make you nervous. At least that's how it is for me. Like, for example, I went on a job shadow with this guy, Drew Mason, who's awesome, and he works with Pure Michigan. And I was super nervous about it. Super nervous that I wasn't going to do a good job. Super nervous that I was going to just be socially uncomfortable, which I probably was. But it's like that moment of when you think to yourself, oh, I shouldn't do this, is like at the exact moment where you should, because that's where you're like going into the unexplored territory of like, I wonder what's going to happen next. Like, where is this going to go? And I'm doing like a weird roundabout here, but an application or a connection to when I was in the float tank is I've had this idea for quite some time, but I'm just scared to do it. And the idea is this podcast that's called Friend of a Friend. And it's where I talk to one of my friends and I go, hey, Brad was the first person that came to mind because he's in the room next to me. Hey, Brad, who's one of your most interesting friends that I don't know that you think I should sit down and talk to? And then that's what the podcast would be. Me talking with this person I don't know for 45 minutes about whatever we talk about. And I thought that was a cool idea, but I'm scared to do it because it's like 45 minutes talking to, like, what if this person's just a total dud? What if I'm a total dud and don't know what to talk about? So if any of you want to steal that idea, you can, because I'm probably going to be too scared to do it. But moral of the story is, your comfort zone, you should probably try and push it, right? Yeah. Is that all I want to say about that? I feel like I had more to say, but maybe not. Maybe I'll drink more coffee right now and it'll keep coming to me. It's actually ridiculous how much I'm talking right now. Let's see. What else is next on my list? Oh, newsletter. Yes, I have been doing an email newsletter. And I wrote this next to it. This is something I also thought about in the float tank. There's another quote. It's by like Osho or one of those like gurus. And it's like, it goes something along the lines of, whatever you're withholding, whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. Which, you read that and it's like, what? Like, that's kind of crazy. But I found it to be totally true. And I think it pertains to my email newsletter. And it pertains to a lot of things. But it's like, one problem that I was having probably like 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, is like, I feel like I'm having so many just of these like surface conversations, and like, I don't even really know how to describe it. I just felt like a lack of openness and honesty, and like people being I keep thinking like #deep in my head, but a lack of like deep share. I don't even really know what I'm saying, but I felt like the world was withholding that from me. And then over the past couple of months, I've realized, oh no, it's actually I hit the microphone again. I'm the one who's withholding that from the world, so that's why I think the world is withholding it from me. It's really backwards, and I doubt I'm like explaining this in the correct way. But basically, it's like if you feel like the world is not being loving to you, it might be because you're not being loving to the world or the people around you. And I guess how that related to me was like I was not being totally open and honest and vulnerable with people about like what I want to do with my life or what my plans are, my goals are. Perfect example of this is like over the past eight-ish months, I've been really interested in singing, and I guess singing when you rhyme is called rapping. So that I guess that too, and it was something that I mean I've always thought about in the back of my head, like man, it would be so cool to make music, but like I am god awful at it. And over the summer when I lived alone, I was able to like try and sing and do these things a bunch, and like, I got a little bit better. I'm still at a place where it's like, dude, that is really bad, but then I got back up, like everyone else moved up to school, and obviously I live with other people, so then it's like, well, when do I do this? Because I don't want people to hear me trying to sing and it sound fucking horrible. But and it's like, well, why are you trying to hide that from these people? Like they don't care. I mean, maybe they do. I'm sure people have said like things behind my back of like, dude, like that's so stupid, or like you sound horrible. But it's like, why does that matter if it's something that I want to do? And if you can't be supportive of that, then it's like that's kind of sounds like your problem. Um, yeah, I'm really bad at the segues between like one line to the next. Uh, writing, writing. Why did I write writing? Oh yeah, okay. So the next thing in my line or in my little list says writing, and this is another thing that kind of deals with the comfort zone and like putting yourself out there and expressing yourself. Is that I've really been trying to. That's so stupid. Um, I'm going to release. Release is such a weird word. I'm gonna like start sharing more of my writing online. I do a lot of writing, um, not essay format, but just like I do a lot of expressive writing, which I don't think I'm necessarily going to share because it's not really useful. But I guess I could tell you what one thing I've been writing about, and then maybe that'll force me to actually write about it and like release it. There's this one there's this idea that someone else had that I probably stole of that like everything is a skill, or that's what I've been telling myself, especially when it pertains to like singing. And instead of thinking of these things like singing, like drawing, like painting as things that you're either born amazing at or born horrible at, thinking of it as a skill just like anything else. And you can get better with practice. So you just practice and you get better. And I'm not necessarily sure if that's totally true. Like that if you looked at research, like I'm sure some people are born better at drawing than others or have a predisposition towards being a better singer or something like that. But it's so much more helpful personally and individually to believe that everything is a skill, because then you actually try and you actually get better. And in this little piece that I'm writing, the parallel I draw is like photography. Like one day for some reason I decided like, I want to get better at taking pictures. It's not like I had that. No one was like looking at these pictures I took off my mom's camera like, wow, you have a really good eye for photography. But over the course of a few years and taking like hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of photos, like I've developed an eye of sorts for photography. Um, and it's just like, well, why can't I do that with everything if I like put enough time and attention into it? Yeah, it is. This is almost at 30 minutes, which is really long. My coffee's not even done, but I'm looking like past the camera a little bit because I put this little piece of chocolate, dark chocolate, that I get to reward myself with after I finish recording this, because I was kind of okay. All right, that's back. The movie part's back, or the camera is recording. But yeah, I just actually want to say goodbye and finish it, because that's the last thing on my list. Yeah, I guess the moral of the story is if you have a lot of coffee and you have a lot of things to say, you can talk for 30 minutes and no one's probably listening. But I guess if you did listen this far, thank you. if you, I don't know, I'm always bad at like saying goodbye and finishing things because it's there's so many other things I could say. I could go on for another hour, but if I guess yeah, I would appreciate words of encouragement if you did listen this far, and you enjoyed it somewhat. Be like, hey, you should do a podcast, because then it'd be like, yay, I feel validated by these people. Um, anyways, I'm gonna stop talking now. If you want to subscribe to my email newsletter, that would be cool. Look it up on my website, anhudy.com, ANHUDY. If you want my phone number, it is somewhere within this audio file or video file. And anything else? Nope.